Hey, welcome to Life in the Leadership Lane. I'm your host, Bruce Waller, where I get to talk to leaders that are making a difference in the workplace and in our community. What did they do to get started? And what are they doing to stay there? And today we are in for a treat. Two reasons. Number one, this is episode 150. Can you believe it? Number 150. And I have an incredible guest on the show today to mark this moment. I'm getting to talk to Todd Watson. Todd is the Chief Executive Officer at the Armstrong Company. I've known Todd for almost 20 years, and I've just always admired you as a leader. And I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm great. Well, thanks. Honored to be here with you today. And, it's crazy when you say 20 years. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but 20 years sure goes fast, doesn't it?
Well, it does. I got to tell you, we recently got to visit in St. Louis at the Unigroup Learning Conference, where Armstrong was recognized for a number of awards. I was just going to ask you, just being at the Learning Conference with your team, like as a CEO, like what did that mean to you?
Every year it makes me so grateful to be part of such a great team, because when you look back, look at the success you've had over those 2 decades that we've been talking about, and you look at the growth of Armstrong over the last 20 years. It's truly been an incredible blessing for our family, for our partners, for so many people. And it's just exciting. It's exciting to see us literally winning awards in just about every category.
It feels good to work for a company that is in growth mode, that is having success. And hey, I want to just for those who are listening, of course, I've shared a little bit about Armstrong over the last 150 episodes, but I would love for you to share a little bit about the Armstrong Company and how you serve your customers.
Yeah, it's funny, Bruce. That's a great question, because if you look at the business that was when you first started at Armstrong, and even me too, we were predominantly an interstate household goods moving company. And we were very good interstate household goods moving company. You still are, but we've evolved into so much more today. So when you talk about serving our customers, it's not just that national account that we're serving anymore. The household goods component of our business is only about half of our actual business now. We're doing so much more in commercial moving and logistics and other warehousing type projects, serving a very unique customer base, so much different than what you and I experienced when we first came in the business. And the needs of those customers are all very unique. They're all very, very different. So it's exciting to watch and see our different offices perform services for so many in a diverse way. If you travel around and you see the different, and you go to some of our different offices, none of them really look alike. They do in terms of people and culture, but the customers we serve are very different. And, it's become a much different company than the day I walked into this place, for sure.
Yeah, and I love that. We've experienced transformation through acquisition, through a rebrand. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk leadership. Hey, but before we get into all that, I've known you for a long time, but I bet there's some things I don't know about Todd Watson. I would love for you to share the Todd Watson story. Like, where did you grow up, and how did you get started in this business that's led you to your role today?
It's a good question. And, really, it all started with my father. I mean, I have an incredible dad who's been an incredible mentor for me. And no matter what he was doing is what I wanted to do. And so ever since a little kid, I knew I wanted to come into this business, and I knew I wanted to play a big role. And having him as just that example, that kind of set the path for me at a very, very early age. So it was no surprise when I graduated from school. We kind of have a joke. I wanted to take a trip after I graduated, and Dad said, you graduate on a Saturday. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you Sunday to get to Memphis, and I'll see you Monday at 7:30. And I was like, all right, that's the way he's always been with me. The expectations have been very high.
Hmm.
I'm grateful for that, because it's, it set that path. So, really the day after I graduated, I was here and haven't looked back. And, you fast forward, that was 1996.
Mm.
So, we're coming up on almost 30 years, which is crazy. That's been the path. I mean, it's been, from day one, it's just been, full court Armstrong, come in, learn the business. And as I started out in the operational side of the business, then migrated to the sales side of the business. Didn't even know I could sell, honestly, didn't know ability or capability. And when they asked me to go into that role, it was when the economy had turned south. And said we need to put more resources on selling. And I'll tell you another funny story to that. It was September 1st, 2001. And if you recall, what happened on September 11 was 9/11, and that was my first month in sales. So not the best time to go out and be starting to a selling career for the company. But it's we persevered through that time. Those were some crazy days back then. But it's been a fun ride. And then of course, back to on the career path, sold until 2013, and then they asked me to run and lead the company, which had really, family businesses are unique in that we have roles and functions, but in a family business, kind of we all chip in. And so I was doing a lot of things, leading before I was formally put in the position. But it's been great. It's been a great run.
I was watching a video before I got on, and you had said I don't know if it's a video or an article, but it said your greatest advantage is having Tom Watson as a father. I thought that was a pretty impactful statement.
Well, and I've told this to a number of people, had I not come into this business, I felt like I was very advantaged, and I felt like I would have been very successful regardless of what I would have chosen to do, because of my father. I mean, he's just been such an incredible example, and, just the foundation that he laid early, work ethic, how you treat people, how you deal with adversity. He's been just a rock, not just for me, but you think about the people throughout our organization and our many leaders that he's had that kind of influence on, almost like a father figure to many. I'm so grateful to have him as my dad, just lucky.
Hey, I want to ask you just before we get further, did you play sports in high school, or what'd you do in high school?
Started out, played basketball.
Okay. I figured you were probably a basketball player. You got some height.
A little football, and then I quit everything for golf, believe it or not. So I made a decision early in high school to quit everything for golf. And really, that was kind of my passion back then. Still is. I just don't get to play as much as I used to. And I'm very grateful for that decision, because it's, the doors that have been opened to me because of golf. I mean, I couldn't have dreamed that big, just very lucky, very blessed to have those relationships that have come along with picking that sport.
Interesting you say that. When I played on the junior high golf team, and when I got to high school, my baseball coach said, "You're going to have to pick one or the other." And I chose baseball. And I was like, what was I thinking? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. At the time, I'm sure that was the right decision. The good news is you still have those same skills. And now, at our age, now you can go play golf. So
yeah.
You didn't make a bad decision.
Yeah, no, we went to the state championship game. We lost that game, but it was like the relationships incredible. But today I get to enjoy golf. Hey, you talked a little bit about your father. I would love to hear, were there any other, let's just say, like mentors of people that have really helped you get to where you are today?
Well, and that's a good question. There's a number of people that I've been very blessed and fortunate to come in contact with. And honestly, through golf, I mean, in my early 20s, because I had excelled at golf, I was asked to play on golf teams and take trips with CEOs and chairmen of, big public companies. And in your early 20s, that's not normal, right? To have that kind of access. So I've been fortunate to be around a number of very good, very dynamic leaders. Certainly, you look, obviously I mentioned my dad. My granddad was an incredible example. He was an amazing man, and a lot of wisdom and a lot of life lessons certainly learned from him. And you look at, his partner, my great uncle, our other founder, Clyde. I had some early years exposure to Clyde before he got sick. Incredible man, incredible mentor, great leader. Learned a lot from him too. So, just the blessings of generations of being impacted by very sharp, very dynamic, very good people, good men. And that makes a difference. I mean, it makes a huge difference. So grateful for all those relationships,
Yeah. I got to meet Jim Duke. I got to meet him at my very first sales meeting in Memphis. And I'll never forget that moment, because I was walking across the street to the University of Memphis, and I don't know if you remember this time, but you drove up, you were driving an SUV, a black SUV, rolled down the window. I was walking with Mike Gonzalez. You said, "Hey guys, you want to ride?" And I'm like, he doesn't even know who I am, and we jumped
Yeah,
in the car and you just like, I just admired that. You're like,
that's awesome.
it
That's a great
was,
memory.
it
Yeah, I do.
was, yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing the influence you have. And you're talking about, influence and how your dad was influential on you, but you also said in the article he's been influential across the enterprise.
Yeah.
And I remember Dave Nelson shared a quote with me one time. He said, you just need to ask yourself 3 times a day what's important to you, and then build your life around that answer. And I've just never forgot that.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of wisdom.
Yeah.
He's great. Speaking of my granddad, I'm actually sitting in his office, which
Oh,
is kind
you
of cool.
are. Oh,
So this
wow.
was this was his office when he was in this place. So clearly we've been in this building a number of years.
That's fantastic.
So that's kind of special for me to come in here and
That is
and be
great.
where he was. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
How cool is that? Hey, I want to ask you this question. In today, you're the CEO, and you've been in this role for a while. I'm just curious. Was there a moment when you found your lane as the CEO? Was there, or were there moments? I mean, you've been you've been building, growing yourself to become the CEO for many, many years. But was there a moment when you said, you know what, this is what I was meant to do. I love being the chief executive officer.
I don't think that there's ever a moment where you think that or feel that, or certainly not me. I mean, I'm humbled by the position. It's an
Mm-hmm.
incredible opportunity. For
Mm-hmm.
years I was wondering, especially as a young person, can I do it?
Mm.
I wanted to be like my dad. I wanted to actually outperform and do more than my father. But I think we all have self-doubt, just like I
Mm.
mentioned a few minutes ago in sales. I didn't know I could sell.
Mm.
Then you get out and you start having some wins and some experience and you say, I can do this. And really, it's the same thing with this role. I knew ultimately, and I felt, a calling from candidly spiritually above me that this is my purpose, right? And there's huge responsibility. I hate to use the word obligation, but
Mm-hmm.
duty to family, to our shareholders, to our partners, to this business, because of what the opportunity and what the business means to our family and to so many families. But I don't think there's ever been a moment where I said, this is it. I'm destined for this. I don't think that at all. I mean, I try not to take a day for granted.
Mm.
I know that life changes, things happen, things change, but I want to come and give 150% every day. I want to try to make today better than yesterday. I want to make tomorrow better than today. I believe in growing, constantly learning, constantly getting better. If you're not getting better, if you're not growing, you're dying. There is
Mm.
no staying still. There is nothing that's static in life. You're either getting better or you're going the other way. I think that's in anything, a business, a relationship, a nonprofit, a church, or whatever. You're either growing or you're going the other direction. So, and I'm pretty passionate about this place, Armstrong, and us constantly growing every year.
Man, I got to tell you, I have chills. I'm just like, man, that's very inspiring. If you're listening right now, you need to get out your pen. You need to get out your journal, take some notes here. There's some good stuff here. Hey, I want to talk leadership with you. Of course, Armstrong, we are now up to, I think there's 31, 32 operating companies across the enterprise. You've got several leaders in the organization. When people talk about leadership, though, there's all different types, definitions of leadership. So if someone said, hey, Todd, what is leadership to you? How would you respond to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, leadership is influence, really. So, I mean, you don't have to be the CEO or the head of a company to be a leader. It's providing influence. It's providing example. Kind of doing what you say, saying what you do, doing the right thing, living with integrity. And you do those things, then certainly kind of it's a lot of it's just common sense wisdom. People will follow those that are doing the right things and that are providing that influence, that leadership to others, whether it's a small group or whether it's a business. But yeah, our model is very unique, as you know. We have equity partners, presidents that run different men and women that run these operating companies. And so, one of my, I guess, key roles and functions is picking and choosing leaders,
Mm.
picking capable people, high integrity people to run different businesses for us. So, that's one of kind of the key function of my role is to be ensure we have, that kind of talent and acumen in the leadership seats. It's important to be able to identify that. And I'm so fortunate. I've got an incredible team around
Mm.
me. Will Abbey's doing an amazing job as president, CEO running the company. We've got a number of other great people and resources around the leadership table that's really helping make those decisions about picking and choosing leaders. Not easy, but it's a great team effort, what we do. And so I genuinely enjoy where we are now, where we're going, and this whole leadership thing, because to your point, that's everything. Leadership is everything.
Well, and what I've been impressed about is a lot of your leaders have been with you for many, many years. So that it's very impressive. And I want to talk about, we were talking about change earlier. The Armstrong Relocation and Companies is now the Armstrong Companies.
Yep.
And you have you're talking about over the years all the change that we've gone through. But today, we have just acquired another operating company in Boston, and now we're going through this rebranding as the Armstrong Company. I would love for you to share the story behind rebranding for those listening.
And it's something I've wanted to do for a number of years, but the timing wasn't necessarily right. But if you think back, I don't know when you joined the organization if we were called Armstrong Relocation, but if you go back years ago, we were Armstrong Transfer and Storage. And the word transfer, that was in vogue like in the 60s or the 70s, but we were way past that time, right? So we were late to change. Then we became Armstrong Relocation in the early 90s. We actually went into the relocation services business actually in the late 80s, but we changed the name in the 90s, probably a little late changing the name then. And then, as you know, we divested our relocation business in 2010. So we're 13 years later, but we're still calling ourselves relocation. Now, moving and storage is clearly an important component of the relocation process, but we technically weren't a relocation company. So really, we live with that name probably a little longer than we should have. Now, we went through it was a very long process on this whole rebranding, renaming. We put some of the best and smartest minds around the table, a very diverse group around the company, so that, as we were making the decision, and we wanted something that was broad. We wanted to keep the Armstrong name, but, we're way beyond moving and storage now. I'll tell you, at first we wanted the Armstrong Group, because we felt that was a broad group, a broad, company name that doesn't force us down a single path. We could do anything. We could buy a number of different types of businesses under the Armstrong Group, but we couldn't get that name because of different, trademark and other legal reasons. So we had a list of about a dozen names that this very great group out of Atlanta came up with, and we ended with the Armstrong Company, which, you think, you pay all this money for some great ideas, and we come back to the Armstrong Company. So, but we're so happy with the name because, it's a strong name. It keeps Armstrong in the name, which wasn't an option anyway. We were absolutely going to keep Armstrong in the name, but it's just the Armstrong Company. It's not, relocation. It's not logistics. It's not this. It's not that, which I like because it gives us the ability to be very broad and continue to take, we've been opportunistic. If you look at, kind of our history and the entrepreneurial spirit of the company, if we wanted to buy some totally different business that made sense that we could put the equity partner model in play, we can do that under the Armstrong Company. Now, I don't see us going out getting crazy buying a bunch of different types of businesses, but I mean, it's certainly possible that there may be a day when we decide to invest in some adjacent space or something that's not, quote, relocation or moving related, that could fit under the Armstrong Company. So broad name, very intentional and purposeful that way, but still honoring, kind of the past, where we've come from, and most importantly, where we're going.
And it's very energizing. I was talking with a couple of your key players, Hillary and Hannah, at the learning conference. And I was just telling them, with the logo and the different colors, it feels good. Like it's almost like a charge, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so proud of those two ladies. They did an amazing job. Hillary specifically, just taking command of the process, and some of the partners have wanted to kind of massage a few things, and she's been adamant, no, it's this way. She's been kind of the police on kind of managing the brand. But yeah, it's great. It's fresh. It's new. The logo is very cool. I'm excited about it. It's great.
Yeah, it's very exciting just to be part of that and to watch it unfold. It's not an easy process. It's taken a long time to get here, right?
Yeah.
I remember Simon Sinek one time. It takes a long time to be an overnight success, right?
Yeah.
It's the same way with
Doesn't just
anything,
happen.
right? So a lot of work going into that. Hey, I would like to just kind of pivot over here. We've purchased another company. We continue to grow.
Yep.
It feels good to be in growth mode. I would just would love for you to share, like, how important is that to you, Todd, to just continue to grow as an organization?
Well, it's what I shared with you earlier. To me, you're either growing or you're dying. And dying's not an option the way I see it.
Yeah.
We've got to grow. And so you look at how can you grow this business? And there are numerous ways you can grow, but obviously you can have organic growth where, from an internal sales force, we're out, boots on the ground, growing new customers. And we can do that. And we've done some of that. If you look at the moving and storage space, there's been massive consolidation and contraction. And so it's hard to grow when you're in a market that's doing that. So you almost have to go out and buy market share. You have to go buy businesses. And, my dad's model, my father's model, when he was running the company, he would buy more distressed businesses and then put our model in play with the equity partner to go turn those around. And at the time, that was a brilliant strategy and it worked. Today, that strategy is a long, drawn out, painful process. I would rather us go buy successful companies with good people, good culture that can be accretive to earnings and that can add value across our entire enterprise as we buy businesses. So we're very selective on who we want to bring into the kind of the portfolio of companies. But I think it's important to have an acquisition strategy to continue to grow, but just because of the market dynamics. And as we go into this slower economy, possibly recession, you look at revenues contracting. So I think that's going to create more opportunities for us to buy businesses. I'm talking to a handful right now, 2 or 3 that are very interesting opportunities potentially for us. Hopefully they'll get fruition and you'll hear about those in, the months ahead. But organic growth, it's hard. We've got to continue to do that. But acquisitive growth, when you get to the size of business that we are today, and it's a lot larger. I was looking at some of our numbers. I mean, basically, we've gone up in the last 10 years, where our top lines are up 300%, and our bottom lines are almost up 300%. So you look at that over a decade, to keep those numbers like that, you almost have to go be acquisitive. It's hard to organically compound that.
Mm. Yeah. How exciting. I know it's exciting for me as well as a member of the team when I can go out and share with customers, hey, we can service you in these particular different areas. It just feels good to be able to serve our customers. Like, hey, I was just curious. You're very driven. I've always thought, man, Todd, he is very driven. Like, where does that come from?
I think, that's a good question. I mean, I think the honest answer is I think that's just the way God made me. I don't, it's the way I'm wired. I don't mean that to be a negative thing, or come across the wrong way, because probably my personality at times is aggressive. I certainly don't mean to come across that way, but I am about growing. I am about creating value. I am about doing those things, doing it the right way with a great group of people around me. But I think when you start talking about what creates that drive, I mean, I think it's innate. I think it was just a gift that God gave me. So.
Hey, I want to ask you this question, and I gave you a few questions before we started the interview, but I was thinking about this. I hear this a lot of time when I go to meetings, that it's the topic that catches everybody's attention. It says the topic is around what keeps you up at night. I want to ask you that question. Is there anything in particular that keeps you up at night as a CEO?
If you think about our business, I mean, the things that would, if I was kept up at night, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little secret, I go so hard during the day. God gave me 2 gears: full throttle and stop. And there's nothing in between. So I get up early, I exercise, and when I go to bed, and when I can go to sleep in 20 seconds. My wife's like, how do you do this? So I'm not up at night thinking, but if I were, it would be around risk. It would be around thinking about the nature of our business, that we're putting, heavy equipment out on our interstates, and the risk that comes with that, bad accidents and that kind of thing. And we've been very blessed, over many years not to have too many of those, but we have had some, and there've been some tragedies, and those are very sad moments when accidents happen. Thank God we haven't had many, knock on wood quickly here. But, those are the things that, when they happen, those are the things that really weigh on your head and your heart. Keep you up would probably not be the case, but probably consume my
Yeah.
mind. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask that question because there's a big HR and mobility community here, and for them to hear like what CEOs think about whenever they hear that, what keeps them up at night. I would like to also ask you a question around legacy. You ever thought about legacy? Do you think about legacy?
No, not really. I mean, I think about playing the long game here.
Mm,
I've got two daughters that both will be down in Dallas next year at SMU, which makes me
nice.
happy. So I think about what do I have to do, like my father did with me, to prepare them for the future. So when I think about legacy more, I'm thinking more about generationally, what do I have to do to continue to ensure the blessings that I've been part of and that the
Mm.
generations ahead have been, and to be sure that those things continue for my girls and other generations and other family members as well. That's what I think about. But you've heard me say it, and I say it when we're buying businesses and everything. We're not looking to go do anything real quick or trying to go make a buck real fast. We're in this for the long haul. We're in this for the long term, and we take the long view on everything. We want to do it the right way. We want to treat people the right way. And just be respectful in everything we do. So I mean, that's more about, when I think about legacy, I just want to continue on the great things that this company has been to date and continue to try to make them better going forward.
I love that. I love that a lot. And I think about when you were just sharing that, I was thinking about like our DNA values and just some of the things that you and others have helped put in place that makes us feel good about this. I want to ask you one question for a pivot here. And again, there's a big HR community listens, and I was, what is something, and not just for the listeners, maybe for team members as well with Armstrong, but what's something that leaders can do to, I don't know, and maybe something you expect, but what are something leaders can do to add value in the organization? And when I say leaders, like anyone,
Yeah.
give a
Yeah.
couple of things that are on your mind that people can do to add more value.
That's a great question. And there's not any one thing that sticks out except, to me, the word initiative comes to mind.
Mm,
And I love people taking initiative, stepping up and going above and beyond the call of duty, going above and beyond a job or function, and maybe even coming forward with other better ideas or best practices, or, hey, have we thought about this? Or, hey, I saw this over here, and we weren't going to do this, but I went ahead and did this because it was what was right. And it made a customer's situation better, or it put the business in a better position. So, anybody that's taking initiative, I mean, I admire that. And, I think any CEO or any leader would be grateful and appreciative of that, because that tells you you've got the right people on the team. You've got the right people around you making things happen. And, that's anybody, right? Anybody at any level of the organization, just take initiative to step up. That means a lot. It really does.
That's fantastic. I love that. It reminds me of, I share often when I'm doing a presentation, Tom Hanks, he was getting a Lifetime Achievement Award. And anytime someone like Tom Hanks gets a Lifetime Achievement Award, my ears are open. I'm like, I want to hear the wisdom coming out of this guy's mouth. And he said, there's something we need to do every day. And he said, we need to bring ideas to the movie set. And I heard workplace. And I
Mhm.
thought, how much wisdom that was. Just every day, just bring an idea, right? Because you never know where that idea can go to
That's
help serve
exactly
others,
right.
right?
Totally.
Is that
Totally. So,
great? I love that. Oh my gosh. Hey, well, let me ask you this question. Have you ever been given any advice? It was just so good. You just find yourself sharing that often with others.
the reality is I've been given so much advice and lots of good nuggets of wisdom, back to what you're saying about our DNA here,
Mm,
I think through, really, I've got 3 rules in my house for my girls, and I'll tell you what
mm.
those are. And
Oh,
that's kind of a compilation of a lot of these things that we do in business and
okay.
everything. Um, yeah, the first is do the right thing, right? And so we've heard that from my father. You've heard that as part of our organization. Do the right thing. If something happens and it's not right, make it right, no matter the cost. Make it right. So that's the first thing. The second thing I asked them is give me your best. Give me 110% every day. If you're busting it and you don't make a good grade or whatever, but you gave me your best and you're all, hey, great. I'm not upset with that. As long as you did your very best, that's what matters. And that's the way I think about showing up here every day, right? Same kind of deal. Then the third and maybe the most important, or certainly at least equal, is live by the golden rule. Treat other people the way you want to be treated. And that's a timeless, principle that, you hear, and I don't necessarily say it's cliche, but, we try to live by that. And there was, I think Lou Holtz is who I heard this from. And I love Lou Holt's wisdom because he's got a lot of common sense wisdom, but he said, years from now, people aren't going to remember what you told them. They're not going to remember what you said, but they will always remember the way you made them feel. So I've tried to instill that in my girls, because that's what matters. It's relationships, it's people, it's how you make people feel, how you treat people. And, you just think about something as simple as just trying to live by the golden rule. I mean, it's kind of basic, but it's a good one. So those are the three rules that I kind of have in my house. We try to live that here at Armstrong too, but those are three little nuggets that I try to ingrain, at home. And certainly I've received so much great advice. I mean, I could probably
we can spend the whole episode.
But the question is, how much of it do I actually take and use? And clearly you want to try to use it all. But yeah,
I love that. Do the right thing, give your best, and live by the golden rule. That's fantastic. I do want to ask you this, just a little follow-up question on this is, you talked about, it's not about what people say, but how they make them feel.
Yeah.
You have a lot of leaders on your team. How do you teach that, Todd? How do you teach that? Or is that something that you don't teach, you hire for it? Talk a little bit about that.
I think more of the second. I mean, I think when you look at leaders that we're putting in positions, they already have a certain, innate gifts and skills. I think we all have, innate God-given skills, and, it's about leveraging those. I don't know that that's something you can teach. Certainly you can talk about it. You can create awareness. You can talk about the importance of it. But, we're all wired differently. And as much as I'd like to say, hey, you can teach it, I think it's more of an awareness thing. And certainly you can learn it. But I think, you said it well, we try to hire to that. We try to hire the right personality and skills and acumen to go lead.
Well, that's what I've enjoyed about being part of this company for many years is everybody I'm around, they make me feel valued.
Yeah.
They make me feel heard. They make me feel important. They make me feel part of the team. And I think that's a key component a lot of people don't think about that's the piece right there. Getting everybody to feel like they're part of something bigger than a job, right?
That's right. That's right. And I think you said that well. And I think that's what I hope everybody on the Armstrong team.
It's fantastic. I love that. Oh man, this has been so good. I got to tell you. Hey, I told you time is going to fly. We're going to shift real quick to what I like to call it's time to accelerate. I'm just going to ask you a few fun questions. First question I want to ask you is, would you rather read a book or listen to an Audible or a podcast?
No question, Audible or podcast. I receive so much information on a daily basis that the last thing I want to do is go read. And unfortunately, people are big readers. I love that for you. I'm consuming so much stuff during the day that, I'd rather just listen to something. And usually, this, I'm seeing you in the gym early, I get up early every day and work out. In that first, hour, I do cardio. And that's often when I'll listen to different things, and that's so definitely Audible.
That's fantastic. I love that. Hey, you talked about, and I've always talked about great leaders are grateful leaders. And you've talked a little bit about gratitude. Talk a little bit about what you're grateful for.
Man, there's a lot of things I'm grateful for. Obviously my family, my health, my faith, clearly Armstrong, being part of such a great organization and great team. Grateful for having so many great people around me, great leaders, great partners, great executive leadership team. I could go on. There's a lot of things, but what I mentioned first are the things that matter most, right? Your family, your health, your faith. Those are the things that, I put certainly at the top of the list.
That's awesome. I'm grateful for you being here today. And hey, let me ask this. You're a very energetic guy, but what energizes you outside of your, you work a lot, but just put work to the side. What really energizes you?
Obviously exercising every day gives me a lot of energy, but I'll tell you, being around people, being around the right type of people, I'm attracted to outliers. I'm attracted to people that are that excel at crazy levels. And that's kind of the friend group that I've established over years. And, I learn a lot from that group, from that type of person. They energize me, they inspire me, so back to kind of what I was saying about growing, it's those people that allow me to learn and grow from them. That's what gives me great energy.
I love that. That is fantastic. Okay, this is my last question. Probably, I love asking this question to all of my guests. Todd, 10 years older. He's knocking at your front door and you're going to go into that door. What's he going to tell you?
Well, I hope he tells me that he's glad I smelled the roses, glad that I slowed down to enjoy things that matter. Back to what I said a minute ago, I've struggled with balance probably all my life. The last, I'd say 4 or 5 years, I think I've gotten better. Maybe COVID had something to do with that. I don't know. But I think, watching my girls grow up, spending more time with Stacy, my wife, as we get older, just realizing time flies and, you want to make it count. And so hopefully the older me says, I'm glad you took time to do those other things.
That's fantastic. I love that.
Now I got to live up to that, right?
Hey, well, let me ask you before we go here. There's probably some people listening right now going, man, I'm out of balance. I got to figure this out. What's a tip?
I mean, I think there's several things that I try to do that make me feel balanced, and I certainly could do a lot better, but exercise every day. I mean, 7 days a week I'm exercising. That kind of helps alleviate some stress, kind of sets the tone for my day for great energy and that kind of thing. Try to spend meaningful time with family when you can. I mean, that's something. Obviously you've got to put in the time. Certainly there's a faith component, quiet time every day in church on Sundays. That also makes me feel complete, balanced. And then, we love trying to do things to create family memories. We travel some, we do some other things there. And I know it's different for everybody. And some people have different abilities to do different things, but, it doesn't have to be a trip or travel. I mean, it's spending time with those that matter. Those are the things I try to think about. For many years, I just got so focused here where it's just head down, work, same thing over and over again. You come in early, stay late, you're working. There's a price that we all pay, for success or for whatever it is that we're doing. But, balance is hard. I've struggled with that. But those are the things that I try to do. Not saying that that's a good answer. I'm not even telling you that's a good answer, Bruce. But those are things that kind of help me through a day and through a week, stay kind of level. And try to stay balanced.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And I got to tell you, I probably started really getting into a system or a routine probably about 15 years ago. And that's really what changed my life. And people talk about exercising. For me, it really clears my head. Right. And so I was at the gym recently. We'll end on this, but I was at the gym recently. And a lady asked me, she said, why are you here? You're in shape. And I said, man, it's easier to stay in shape than it is to get in shape, isn't it? Like once you start, you got to keep going, don't you?
That's right. That's right. And hopefully a sense of guilt, you feel bad if you're not, right? So
I love it. I love it.
That's so good.
You're definitely driving in the leadership lane. I appreciate you. I appreciate your leadership, everything you do for the Armstrong Company. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I cannot wait to share this conversation. So thank you, Todd. I appreciate you, man.
Well, thank you. I'm very grateful for you, grateful for the time, honored to be here with you today. And thanks for all the great things you're doing for our team too, because you inspire so many people, Bruce, and you've been such a great leader for so many years. And so certainly, again, honored to do this and be here with you today. Thanks.
Awesome. Hey, I'll talk to you later, man.
Sounds good.